In Elliot, A Soldier's Fugue, there's a couple of things that I noticed for this play. One of them, the setup of the play to me was initially confusing. I didn't truly understand what character was talking, what character was entering, and who was being talked about. And I thought the character I was speaking was the main focus, but actually it was the character that was entering that was the main focus, and the rest of the family was talking to them. I also found it interesting how Ginny and George got together. She was stitching him up in Vietnam, and then when everyone fell asleep, she just kissed him. It was pretty interesting. And then like also the final one was after all the injuries Elliot faced, he still eventually went back to Iraq at the end of the play. Two values that I noticed were family and war. So the one value family in Prelude 11, the radio voice was talking to Elliot, and pretty much one of the things he asked was why did Elliot enlist in the Marines? And he said because my dad was a Marine, I want to be a Marine, and I want to do it for my dad. Then also the family wrote letters to each other while they're in war, showing a close relationship between the two. And then other value was just the importance of war. There was three generations of war. There was Grandpop, who served in Korea, had Alzheimer's, and then there was Ginny, who served in Vietnam, with Pop, who was Elliot's father, who also served in Vietnam, and then Elliot, who got a Purple Heart serving in Iraq, and like got like a lot of the story was about his first kill, and then how he got injured, and also how Elliot went back to war even after his injuries because it was all he had, and he wasn't going to work at Subway. One of the things I noticed from reading with a pencil was I was unfamiliar with where one place was. One of Elliot's war buddies, he said like Waikiki was. I know they said Hawaii, but I want to look up exactly where. It's in Hawaii. It's a beachfront neighborhood in Honolulu, and it's most famous for the Waikiki Beach. For the issue of diversity, one thing I noticed was for like the American soldiers, one thing I noticed was like the soldiers were not sure what to do when they come back. In Prelude 11, they asked if why Elliot wasn't going back. He said like he wasn't going to work at Subway. He didn't want to have like that type of basic job, and it really talks about what soldiers are going to do after they're done and why a lot of soldiers end up re-enlisting or just end up without jobs because they just don't know what to do when they come home. Another one is like how soldiers just have like real family and they have real values. Like Ginny, she would plant seeds whenever like Elliot was at war because her son was at war, and it made her feel better. Then like how the family just didn't want Elliot to go, even though there was two generations before him of war people, of war veterans. He like their family just didn't want him to go. And then also the connection, they would send letters to each other to stay close, and then just Elliot just wanting to learn more about the war from his grandpa. For question five, what I learned is a fugue is a musical composition in which one of two themes are repeated or imitated by successively entering voices with continuous interweaving of the voice parts. A lot of words. In the fugues, it would be a combination of everybody talking about another character. So it'd be Ginny, Grandpop, and Pop talking about Elliot, and then it also gave a lot of different generations takes on war, and it showed just how war affected people of a lot of different generations. So finally, my two questions are: if you were Elliot, would you have reenlisted? And then the second one was, what are some ways that being in a military family affected Elliot and his ideas and his personality?